Hey guys, I'm Jordan Fromer. I believe in hunting hard, hunting smart, and having a fun time while doing it. And shooting limits, well, that's just the icing on the cake. I revel in the journey just as much as the successes it brings. From ducks to dogs to decoys and guns, we'll be talking tactics, strategies, and what it takes to get the job done. Load up and take aim. This is the Duck Gun Podcast.
That's the real question, man. I was born ready. Are you ready, Hunter?
I'm ready.
All right. Time to rock and roll. Welcome to the Duck Gun Podcast, the only waterfowl podcast where you learn to be a better waterfowl hunter. Joined alongside Duck Gun Chronicles, we have Hunter, the king of the cans. Tonight's episode will be covering the tactics, tips, and strategies for getting more wood ducks hung on your strap.
Editor, leave that in.
We're gonna leave that in. New intro for tonight. So anyways, guys, thanks for joining us on another episode of the Duck Gun Podcast. I don't know why I did that. We're just screwing around, and it kind of turned out pretty good. So today's episode, we'll be talking about our favorite topic in the whole world, the king of the timber, wood duck hunting strategies, tips, tactics, and it really is a topic that is near and dear to our hearts. There's so much better than divers.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. I mean, be honest with the wood ducks. How high do they actually, like, if you could choose to go on a single hunt to target a single species of duck, are wood ducks at the top?
They're very close. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What beats them then?
What? What'd you say?
What beats them then?
I don't want to say anything like in case a wood duck is listening, but I don't want to be outed. Man, that's tough because like it goes down to like numbers too, right? Because pintails are awesome, but we just really don't see them. Like, how am I going to say pintails? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm talking truthful, like you're gonna target a single species for a hunt.
Sure, I think probably mallards. You know, greenheads, mallards, or maybe like a mixed bag puddle duck hunt. Beyond that, that's about it.
Okay,
we don't get mixed bags. We don't get mixed bags here. You gave me kind of crazy eyes, but like it's very rare that we shoot anything besides a mallard or a wood duck. So it's more special for us. We're like, man, we shot like a gadwall in that mallard bunch, or like, you know what I mean? So it's like mallards, wood ducks, and a gadwall and a green wing teal, and we're just like losing our mind, you know? It's like, holy cow, what a crazy mixed bag hunt we had today.
Yeah, that would just be like Tuesday. Right.
Yeah, that's what you guys shoot every day.
It's almost harder to shoot like a single bird, like to go out and shoot 4 mallards than it is to go out and shoot a mixed bag hunt.
Because then you'd have to have the constraint to like not shoot certain birds. Like, I'm not going to shoot. But no, it's like usually you're shooting what comes in.
Yep. The first 6 that fly in. Well, the first 6 that catch a pattern. Sometimes it takes more than that because I'm bad at shooting. But
and the legal bag limits.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, see, I'd put cans obviously at the top. They're pretty much
Number
made
one.
That one clear. Yeah. If I'm going to choose a single bird, even though I can only go shoot 2 canvasbacks, I'm going to shoot 2 canvasbacks. And then it's probably followed by the mallards and the wood ducks are pretty close, to be honest. The thing that's special about wood ducks is like the time of the year you get to hunt them. They're like that first real duck you get to hunt that's not a blue-winged teal.
Right. There's so much disdain for blue. No, I'm just kidding. There's not. But it is cool how there's different seasons for everything. I enjoy that part of waterfowl. How it just kind of changes through the year. It's like it'd be so boring if like we lived through life and it was just like the same all year round. But we have the seasons, right? We got spring. There's things to be excited about for spring, like turkey hunting, dog training. You got the summer, like school vacation, hot days, going to the beach, whatever is your thing. Maybe those things aren't like, I'm not a big beach goer, is kind of what I was getting at. But then you get to fall and it's hunting season, and then winter you got Christmas and snow, and when your kids sledding and stuff like that. So like it's cool to have like different seasons, and I can see the similarities in waterfowl because we got early season, we got the blue wings, we got, you know, like you said, the first real duck. A lot of people have early goose season hunting as well. And then it gets to your bigger puddle ducks, and then like late for you, then it goes to divers, and then you kind of cap it off. At least I always cap my season off with late season honkers, which I had some really cool this past season as well. Some really cool honker hunts. So it's, yeah, there's something to be said about having like specific times and specific things and goals, and a good change of pace through the waterfowl season that you know, things that we love. I will say though, you know, the reasons that I love wood ducks is that morning flight is amazing.
It's chaos.
And it's so hard to beat because, like I said, it's in the fall. It's still kind of warm. It almost has like a warm feeling. You know, it's first few weeks. It might be cold, but it usually heats up a little bit. You get some amazing like sun in the backdrop. I don't know if that's just like the ones that stand out the most, or if that's a thing about like the early fall. But yeah, just beautiful morning flights, wood ducks buzzing in like crazy. And there's just so many times they come in like with such reckless abandon into the decoys. And it's just, yeah, it's so cool. That first flight. And then not only that, but if they're not the most beautiful waterfowl bird, they have to be in most people's like top 2 or top 3. They just, spectacular looking duck, you know, all the colors. I mean, almost, I would say not even like most beautiful duck. It's like one of the most beautiful animals in all of creation. So it's up there.
Yeah. And like the color profile, I have one sitting right next to me, but just like the iridescence of the different colors on the head, they're incredible. I mean,
right.
I don't know of a bird that's more beautiful than like a Drake wood duck that's plumed out.
Right. And I think, you know, we might be a little biased because for something like the color of green for duck hunter, you know, like some people might think, okay, like a mandarin duck. I personally don't think that looks better. Very similar markings, right? But it's orange and similar markings. But like the contrast between like such a sharp, crisp green, and then like the contrast of the white and the black, and yeah, it's just a beautiful duck. So,
oh yeah, I always really like the like side coloring, the like brown. I think those feathers are always really cool to me. I mean, I know the head is obviously extremely vibrant and everything else, but like that side like patch, the brown with the specks, has always been cool to me.
Right. And that's also, you know, a highly sought after, at least in the past, maybe not as much now. But back in the day when people are collecting their own feathers for fly tying, that was a highly sought after piece for tying flies, which I think is a really cool thing. I've always wanted to do it because I used to fly fish a lot. Don't do it so much now. But I thought it'd be cool to like shoot a bird and then like tie a fly with it, catch a fish, and then like make a meal, eat the duck and the fish together or something. Never happened, but that'd be a cool idea someday.
I've actually done that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I've tied a fly with duck feathers. Actually, I did it with both duck and a pheasant that I shot. And I tied my own flies and then went out and caught. Granted, it was bluegill, but yeah, you know what? Still caught a fish.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've caught a fish. I just didn't do the whole meal thing. I actually caught I did it with some mallard feathers, and caught a smallmouth bass on the fly. That's the only time I've done it in the river. But it was honestly a pretty terrible fly, to be honest. It did the job though. I guess it tricked him.
Yeah.
And the last thing I got for the reasons to love a wood duck is they are, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the best tasting duck there is. Skin on wood duck on the smoker. Okay, it's not the best tasting, but it's, again, we have to put it high up on that list. Are you probably going to say canvasback, right, Hunter?
Yes, I will say canvasback.
Okay, so you'll say canvasback. I think we need a blind test. And maybe we will sometime on the boat this fall. So we'll see. But yeah, they are, if they're not the best tasting, they're high up there. So do you leave skin on for your canvasbacks or no?
It depends, but a lot of the time I do.
Okay. See, yeah, I've heard for divers
like
you usually don't.
Yeah, but with canvasbacks, they're not a diver. They're the king. See?
They're still a diver, right?
I mean, technically, but yeah, they they not technically they are a diaper,
Okay.
but no, I usually leave skin on like when I have time to. If I'm in a hurry, work, other stuff, then I'll just breast them out, take the skin off. But when I have time on the weekends, I usually leave skin on, and I usually bake them, and that's like so good.
Oh yeah. Well, I hope that at some point you bake a canvasback for me then, because I'd love to be proven wrong. But right now, I'll put on my list that skin on, even skin off, wood duck is the best tasting duck that I've so far had. I will admit I've never eaten a canvasback. So I'll leave that one open to the jury. But as for now, the wood duck is the best tasting duck out there.
Yeah. I mean, I know one of my reasons why the wood duck is like so prized, I guess is the best way to say it, is that when I first got into duck hunting, it was the first hunts I was experienced on, was going out in the marsh. We had like the wood duck flight early in the morning. You're like 12 years old and it's just total chaos, and you don't know which way to look and everything else. And like, that just stuck out so much. The wood duck hunts are typically pretty easy to get new people on, for lack of a better way to put it too, because they're kind of buzzing around. You don't necessarily need to have the best hide in the world. Don't necessarily need to have the best. Well, you don't have to call it all for them. And like, so it's easy to get new hunters on wood ducks. And that's one of the reasons I really like them.
So do you call or do you not call?
So I've never called wood ducks, but I bought a wood duck call and I've been practicing, and I definitely plan on calling in wood ducks this fall.
There we go. I'll start practicing a little bit more too. I have a couple wood duck calls. Actually, one that was sent to me by Polk Pattern Calls, which he makes some great duck calls. And that one's way better than like the $10 plastic Duck Commander one I had before. So
See, I have a $10 plastic Duck Commander one, so we're gonna have to see which one's better.
Well, I'm sure that some of the user can greatly improve the call as well. So it's not 100% the call, but I will say that having a wood, like a hand turned wood call, just looks better. I do think it sounds better. But I'm sure you can get away with one of those Duck Commander ones too. So
I've never used one, so we'll find out.
We'll find out, man. We'll find out this fall. So
hopefully,
yeah, hopefully after getting off of a big 43-foot riverboat that we just got, done camping in, and yeah, stacking up a bunch of wood ducks. That would be ideal.
Perfect. I'm here for it.
Alrighty, let's get a quick word from our partners and we'll jump right into it. First off, I'd like to give a big thanks to Flight Day Ammunition. Guys, I'm super excited to try out the Flight Day Ammunition 3-inch number 3s bismuth. I know that 3-inch number 3 bismuth has been my go-to for a long time. I probably, as we speak, as you guys are listening to this, I'm on my way to early season North Dakota goose hunting. Hopefully there's success there. Hopefully this video comes out, but I will be running the Flight Day bismuth, premium bismuth over there. Some great stuff. So excited for this one, guys. Check it out over there. Flight Day Ammunition, and get yourself some good old shot shells for the season. Also like to give a big thanks to OnX, guys. OnX is a great app for the waterfowl hunter out there in North Dakota. Again, we're going to be using that like crazy as we're checking public land, private land, knocking on doors, driving around and finding those cut wheat fields, hopefully with some honkers all in it. So check it out, guys. As a waterfowl hunter, you're not going to regret having OnX in your arsenal to help you find more permission and get on to more birds this coming season. Also like to give a big thanks to Final Approach. Guys, Final Approach is the one-stop shop for the duck hunter. Season is coming in quick, and they have so much awesome gear for the duck hunter. Everything from blinds to decoy bags to blind bags to decoys to silhouettes. Like early season goose, we're going to be running the family groups with silhouettes. Probably running the sub 3 blind from Final Approach, and waterfowl backpack, always one of my favorite pieces. But you guys name it, they got tons of gear for the waterfowl hunter, so check it out. Also like to give a big thanks to Weatherby. Guys, Weatherby making some great leaps and bounds in the shotguns that they've been coming out. Like this, this one I got behind me. Got the 18i. That is the First Light camo pattern on that one. I got the Sorex side by side, or the Ryan side by side. I'll be running probably on this trip. I think I'm going to be running the Sorex 12 gauge semi-auto, and I'll bring that Orion side by side for a backup. But guys, definitely some awesome shotguns. They've been making some leaps and bounds. When you're in the market for a waterfowl shotguns, make sure you check out Weatherby. You won't regret it. Alrighty, let's go ahead and jump on into the main meat of the podcast. Jump into it. We're going to cover our tips and tactics and strategies for getting more wood ducks on your game strap. So first off, we got scouting for wood ducks. Scouting for wood ducks is really I feel like it's more important than most ducks. Obviously, scouting for any duck is important, but my take on it is a lot of times these wood ducks can give the appearance of being on a mission. They are going from point A to point B, and if you're somewhere that they don't want to be, if you're in the wrong type of habitat, all that kind of stuff, they're not going to be coming into your decoys. You're not going to be pulling them the same way that you pull mallards. Mallards could be thinking they're going from point A to point B. You call them this and that, and they just seem more likely to change their mind and come into your set. If you're in a different type of habitat, which mallards really seem to be like prolific in very many different types of habitat, which is not the same with wood ducks. So I think that scouting is super important when it comes to wood ducks. You need to be in the right place. You need to know where they are frequenting at that time. And if you can scout them and find the spot, you're going to be in for one of those super cool morning first light wood duck hunts.
Yeah, I'd agree. So when I scout for wood ducks, I'm always looking. The key is wood ducks on the water. If you find wood ducks in the air, you really haven't found anything. You have to make sure you find spots where they're on the water. Because if you see them in the air and you sit there, you're probably just going to look at them in the air the next day. That's been my experience.
Yeah, I could agree with that. There's a lot of wood ducks around, and you'll probably see them flying. You can see them screaming by, but they might be in that hole that's in the timber. And it's just because you see them right from the shore or the boat ramp or whatever doesn't mean you're in the right spot.
Totally agreed. I think like the other thing with scouting has to do with the habitat too, unless you have that listed.
I do actually. I do have that later on.
Going.
But my the next topic I was going to add to that would be for wood ducks. I think it's really important to think quick. The way I always say it is you have the shooter's chance when it comes to wood ducks. The wood duck limit is 3 ducks. When we talk about that morning flight, they're buzzing in, they're quick flying, they're, swerving, ducking, diving, coming right all around. And I've tripled on wood ducks, not very often, but you have that shooter's chance. And not only that, but, first light, it's just chaos. And if you're a good shot, or if you're even an average shot, you're shooting 50%. It's like, how many times do you go on a wood duck hunt where you don't have 3 shots at a wood duck? So I really do feel like if you're thinking quick, you're taking, some good shots in that low light. It's tough wing shooting, but it can be a lot of fun. So you always have the shooter's chance when it comes to wood ducks. So think quick, be on your toes. Don't be just standing there nonchalant. I mean, be in the athletic position is the best way to put it, where you're ready to like spring into action, shoulder that gun quick. If you're there with your hands in your pocket and a wood duck buzzes by and lands 30 yards down, it's too late.
Oh, definitely agree. You definitely have to be poised and ready to go when a wood duck flies in. And the hunts that we're talking about when you're out there in the early morning and there's wood ducks just buzzing everywhere, you got to be ready for them. And you got to be decently quick on your gun too, because a lot of times when you set wood ducks, you'll set a point or something and you won't be able to actually see them coming until they're almost in the spread. And so you got to be pretty decently quick with getting on them out and getting the gun pointed in the right direction, which is, again, another reason why wood ducks are fun, because they're kind of a little bit if you're going for shooting percentages, I probably wouldn't shoot wood ducks every day.
Right.
But if you're going for, having a good time, it's almost like like the old school shooting galleries where they're just kind of flying all over the place.
Would you say they're harder to shoot than blue-winged teal?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Cause if you get blue-winged teal coming in, I think the big difference is that blue wings probably fly more sporadically than a wood duck does. But you can see a blue wing when you're in a marsh, you can see a blue wing coming from like 200 yards away, 300 yards away. I mean, you can see them coming. You have time to react and wait. Where a wood duck, it's just kind of like,
I feel like a wood duck actually does fly more sporadic than a blue wing, because like a blue wing, I feel like it's really kind of controlled, and it's like, it's just really fast, right? They come in, a lot of times they're in a ball, even if they're like a 3 or 4 pack, they're coming in and then they just put the brakes on out of nowhere. It's almost like they don't stop and they hit the water, right? Whereas like the way that a wood duck hits the brakes, it's like this waffling all over the place, wings out, and it's like left, right, and just like flipping really fast, and it's like jumping 3 feet to the left, to the right, to the left, to the right, and then it comes, and either it lands in the decoys, or it can be like, okay, no, I'm going to shoot, stay water level, and it's low light. Now you can't see it because its profile is below the cattail line or the tree line or whatever, and then boom, it splashes in the water 30, 40 yards down the pipe, and you missed it. So that, they're definitely a tough duck to shoot.
Yeah. And again, I think that's also exasperated by the fault that like typically where you hunt wood ducks, you can't see them coming. Like you don't see them until they're almost within range most of the time.
Right. Yeah.
So that makes it seem way more difficult. I mean, I think wood ducks are harder to shoot than a blue-winged teal, but I think blue wings are more sporadic. That's just, But now that I'm thinking about it, that one wood duck hunt you came on with Tim and I, was it 2 years ago? We were sitting in the boat and we had all the ones land and you didn't have your gun loaded. You remember that one? Like those ones on the video came in like just all over the place.
Right.
They were swinging.
Experience. Yeah. I've got spots where it's kind of weird where it's like you said, a lot of places we hunt, a lot of timber, a lot of trees. That's obvious because that's where wood ducks nest, so it's something that's a common place for hunting ducks, even if it's like a lake. And there's a small lake I hunt. It's one of my favorite wood duck spots, surrounded by cattails, but then the cattails are all surrounded by trees. So those birds at first light, we'll watch them, and the place that we hunt, there's like a lake and then a bottleneck's down and then another small section of the lake. And a lot of times I'll hunt right in that bottleneck, and the wood ducks also love that bottleneck. But even if they're not landing in the bottleneck, you get some good passing shots where they're cutting right through that pass. But first light, a lot of times we'll be looking up and we'll see them like come over the trees. And it's so cool. They just come over the trees and then they're getting in there, and waffling around and coming right in. So are some of the spots do you hunt like similar spots? Or are you just scouting and seeing them wherever? Because like where we're at, and it's probably a lack of habitat, I go look at these places that I know that have lots of wood ducks. Like I'll go scout the snake swamp, and then I'll go scout like this spot. And then there's other spots where I'm looking for wood ducks. And more or less, it sounds like you just like look in the habitat and find them because they have so many options. Whereas like, well, they don't have, if they're going to be around, they're going to be here, and you go look.
Yeah. So when I like scout for birds, that goes back to the scouting tricks, we have a lot of habitat for them, right? It's a lot of sloughs, old river sloughs that are now not a part of the river. Now they're just cuts in the trees that are deep, pretty deep water, 10 foot deep in the middle, pretty narrow little cuts, channels and stuff like that. And you can pretty much guarantee that all of those are going to have wood ducks around them, right? Like it's pretty much, you're going to find them. So when I'm scouting for wood ducks, I'm actually scouting for numbers. I'm walking through the woods, going in the boat, looking for numbers of birds. And I'm going to hunt where I see the most numbers sitting on the water that I haven't spooked up. That's another big thing that I try not to do is kick the birds off if I find them, especially a couple days before season.
Like day 2 of opener last year.
That was day 1 of opener.
We hunted it day 2.
Yeah.
we found 40 wood ducks. We needed one more for the limit. And I don't blame you, but you shot it. And then we're like, well, surely enough of these 40 wood ducks will come back for us to have a decent hunt for 3 guys. What was the outcome of that? Yeah.
I think we
What did
shot
you
like
shoot,
3.
Yep. Shooter's
Yeah.
chance, we could have had like 6 or 7, to be honest, though. They
Yeah.
were just really tough, fast shots. And a
Oh.
lot went to our right side. So,
Yeah, and they were that was a very narrow channel. Like that channel wasn't even 5 foot wide. Where
it was
that,
unbelievable that they were there, to be honest.
I mean, that's where they're at around here.
There was 40 of them in that, though.
That's because they weren't bothered there.
Well, yeah, but we saw, the thing was, well, they were bothered once you walked in there.
Yeah, well,
But we watched them all day, like fly over where we were sitting
mhm.
back to, and we go look to see if they're in there. You're like, well, I'm going to take my gun. Good choice for day 1, bad choice for day 2.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, we're ready to move on to the next. You got anything else to add on to thinking quick?
Oh, thinking quick. No, I don't have anything else to add on to think. Oh, actually, I do have a thing to add on to
Sure.
thinking quick. I'm sure you already have this as a tip later on, but being willing to move on the thinking quick.
Yeah.
Wood duck flight is short, and so if you're sitting on a point and you're noticing that they're flying 30 yards on the other side of the point, make the move right away. Like once you see it happen 2 or 3 times, you're only going to have a half-hour wood duck shoot. Just go move. And if you have more than one guy and you're worried about it, split up a little bit. But you definitely need to make the move, and you need to make the decision quickly.
Yeah, that's not a bad tip. Honestly, I almost never do that for wood ducks just because of how short of a flight it is compared to like, I feel like even blue-winged teal fly longer than and not only that, but you can see like before you can even shoot, because we have to wait till actual sunrise instead of 30 minutes before for blue wings. If we could start a petition, like I'm down for that, but get it
Shoot
changed
30 minutes before.
right. Like everybody, like a lot of the Central Flyway states, and also apparently Louisiana, which somehow is the only one in Mississippi Flyway that I know about. They can shoot 30 minutes before for blue wings. Now I say that we have to check on Kentucky and Tennessee because they have 2 days of wood ducks as well, which probably means they can. So anyways, that's a very long rabbit trail that I don't even remember what I was talking about.
Moving. Talking about moving.
Moving spots. So I'll do it a lot of times for mallards, but for wood ducks, not as much. But I'm not saying it's a bad idea because we've done it before. I just feel like in my area, since we have such limited habitat, I already know that I'm in the best spot. So it just doesn't come up very often. And also it's like I'm frequenting the same. It's like, this is the spot. I already know. So, but I can see where you hunt. And it's like, oh, I saw a bunch of wood ducks here. And this is the first time I'm hunting it because we have so much habitat. And oh no, I was off by 50 yards. So we need to move. And 50 yards is a huge deal with wood ducks because they fly way more sporadic than, most divers or probably divers too, but most puddle ducks do. So it's like they can be whizzing by you and you'd be sky busting them. But if you're 50 yards further in the cut, they're landed right in those decoys.
Yeah. And the other thing that's like lends itself well to the wood ducks too is like when you're hunting the sides of sloughs, well, you're typically just leaning against a tree and you typically only have 6 decoys out or something like that. So all you have to do is grab your decoys and walk 50 yards away. You really don't lose out on that much hunting, especially when you're fast and you can get there before everybody else.
Right. All right. So next thing I got on my list here is talk about the habitat. Think about the habitat. With wood ducks, man, I feel like wood ducks are a huge staple when it comes to the Mississippi Flyway duck hunting. It's a huge staple when it comes to our Atlantic Flyway brethren as well. Now, those dirty dogs from the Central Flyway and the Pacific Flyway, they can really care less about wood ducks. That's not totally true. I know I'm making sweeping generalizations, and I'm proud to do so. I'm just messing around. But they are a huge staple in the Mississippi Flyway and the Atlantic Flyway. But we got to think about the habitat, places to look for your wood ducks. Think about rivers, think about swamps, think about cattail lakes, your ponds, your true flooded timber, your marshes. Now, when I say marshes, I'm talking like those Michigan marshes, which that's my reference to it. I'm sure you got like some marshes on the Mississippi, all those places. And really when it comes to it, when you're looking for the king of the timber, you got like that flooded timber. That timber is king when you're looking for them. So think about your habitat, places not to look. You're not really going to shoot wood ducks on big water. It's less likely. Now, if you have like an edge that is stagnant and cattails, you got chances for it. Now, I don't know if anyone's ever shot a wood duck like in the middle of Lake Michigan or something like that. You know, that's an extreme, but your big water, you're not finding them out in the middle of the big water. You're finding them back in the little cuts and the sloughs and the swampy flooded timber areas. And those honestly are the most fun places to find them. So you're not looking though. You're not looking at big water. You're not looking in your prairie marshes. I think they're very less likely. That's a poor way of saying it. You're much less likely to find them in those big prairie marshes like they have out in Nebraska and Kansas and over there in the Central Flyway. And so, that's what you're looking for. To add to the habitat, you got to think about the diet of a wood duck. Now, what is the most synonymous thing with a diet of a wood duck, Hunter?
The most synonymous? I don't know. I know what acorns. I look for, but acorns. I know everybody else looks for acorns.
No, I'm just saying that's like the most. Everybody thinks of that, right? I'm not saying it's the most important, but I think that everybody thinks of that. We've all seen social media posts where there's somebody and like the gullet's full of acorns and the mouth is like pouring. Like I've killed a lot of wood ducks. I mean, not a ton, but I've killed my fair share, more than the average hunter by far. And I have yet to have a wood duck that's just spewing forth acorns that it's just gobbled up. So, but we got to think about the habitat. That's the most common thing people look for. Whether it is the most common thing to happen, that might be a different thing. But not only that, their diet consists of microbials, land and water invertebrate, seeds, nuts, plant matter, all those things. So it is really, something to consider when you're picking out your place to hunt. The way I think about it is it's similar to mallards, where they'll be roosting in a spot, and then their first flight in the morning is to feed. So if you're in a place where it is flooded timber and there's acorns, they're probably going to be chowing down on those. But there's the marshy and swampy areas where, especially in that early fall area, the bugs aren't going to be dormant. So they'll be chowing on the plant matter and microbials, and that'll be a lot of their early season diet as well. So you got anything to add on Habitat, Hunter?
Oh yeah, all sorts of it. So the first thing is typically we find wood ducks here. So we'll have a deeper cut, like usually they're old river channels, old creek channels, stuff like that. Or maybe they are a creek channel or a smaller river channel. But I'm thinking things that are less than 30 yards wide with trees on both sides. But generally speaking, we find them off of the edge of deep cuts where they're like 5 to 10 foot deep in the center, but pretty dramatically deep, like off the banks and stuff like that. And where the wood ducks tend to do is they tend to fly the like creek lines, old riverbed lines. And then once you get up on them, typically there's like a mud flat area. And that's where they're feeding, is up on the mud flat where they can get to the microbials and those, like, I don't know what it is. I always think of it as a grass, but they're like little shoots that grow out of the mud around here that they just love to tear up. And so if you can find a spot where it's like a deep river channel that very quickly goes to a mud flat and it's still like that timbery kind of stuff around, that's where we really, really, really focus on them. And again, they're eating a lot of the microbials around me. They're eating a lot of the, like I said, those little plant shoots. I don't know what kind they are, but I always find them inside of the wood ducks.
The plant shoots. Honestly, I'm not sure exactly which one you're talking about. Is it a seed or is it the actual plant?
It looks like a blade of grass, but like a really, really short 1/2 inch to 1 inch tall blade of grass. It's like when the water first comes off the mud flats around here, it grows like these just little plants. Some of it almost looks like clover that's only a 1/4 inch tall. Some of it looks like just like the start of a shoot of some sort of plant. And they just eat those things up, and they eat the bugs out of them because they're usually full of little bugs and stuff too. Right. So
yeah, it's like a 2-for-1. Yeah. Some of the plants that we look for as well, is more of the seeds, though. It's like the smartweed, the barnyard grass, millet, but that's not. I don't really know if that's natural or if that's only planted. There's arrow arum, there's duck potato. Actually, I don't know if they actually dig down and root into the mud for the duck potato or not, but I know that the arrow arum and the yellow seeds that come off that would definitely be small enough. And the snake swamp is actually full of arrow arum and smartweed. And then obviously the duckweed, the green stuff you see floating around on top of the water. They actually love that. I didn't learn that for a long time, but they'll eat that right off the top of the water. It's probably easier for them to eat too, being like a smaller duck with a smaller bill. You don't really see geese going after that the same way you see wood ducks. The other thing I will say that I have actually found wood ducks that were spewing corn out of their gullet and out of their mouth that I've shot. So you see that a lot of times with mallard posts, and these are in dry fields in late October. So I've never actually shot a wood duck, though. No, I take that back. I have shot a wood duck in a flooded field. So
I've seen a wood duck shot in a field. I've shot wood ducks in like flooded corn before, but never in a dry field. The weirdest place I've ever shot a wood duck, though, was actually out of a layout blind diver hunting. It decoyed right into the spread, right into open water. And I was like, it took me by such surprise that I like let it sit there, and I had like double checked to make sure it wasn't a merganser, because I was just like, there's a hooded thing floating around in my decoys. What in the world? Yep. It was a wood duck that decoyed in for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
That's crazy. I'll add my craziest story too for wood duck. It wasn't me that shot it, but it was one of the Cavs, not Kevin Barton, but the other Cav, on a late split duck hunt in January. We were hunting, everything froze so hard that we set up A-frames on ice and tried to keep an ice hole open that we couldn't keep open. And essentially we're shooting ducks over ice and had like an amazing duck hunt. But at first light, we had like a flock of like literally, it was like 100 mallards cup in and like shot like one or two. It was borderline embarrassing. And then I will, not to out anybody else, but I can't remember. I know I shot at least one of them though. So, but that was our first flock. But shortly after that, we had a pair of wood ducks come in. I mean, we're talking like negative degrees and wood ducks in January. It's like, what in the world? So, that won't be a tip for when and where to look for wood ducks for sure.
Definitely not. Just like definitely don't target them in a layout boat.
Yeah, right. So here's the question: are we gonna have a rap battle with Elliot again about wood ducks?
A rap battle? You mean like a little beef session?
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I guess is the
I'm
best
sure
way to say
we
it.
could egg it on, but I'm not going to try to be honest. We've I know that by the end of that we might have been beating a dead horse, but it was a lot of fun. So I'm just curious if he hears this podcast and hears us talking about how cool wood ducks are, if he'll be like, no, they're not.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on whether or not he concedes that they actually fly into a decoy spread.
Yep. And that segues perfect into my next point, and that's kind of why I was going there. So, do you believe? Are you a believer? I believe in wood ducks. Do you believe in wood ducks that they decoy?
I believe that they decoy.
And they fly into your set?
I believe the decoy to goose decoy is the best.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
For some reason, they like if you put 2 or 3 goose decoys off to the side, it seems like bro science. They want to always land.
What's your sample size here?
They always want to land with the goose decoys.
4 times I did it.
No, I mean, like being real, they just always seem to be like, I don't know if they can see them or if they think that they're like safety. I don't know, but they always seem like they go into the goose decoys.
The true test is, since you're saying it's a visual thing, is we need a magnum, like giant goose size wood duck decoy.
So
just a couple of them.
We've actually
see
used,
how well that works.
Have you seen the? I don't remember who makes them, but they're goose-sized mallard decoys, and they have like a mallard silhouette and everything.
Right.
We actually used 6 of those to go wood duck hunting a couple years ago, and they work just as well as goose decoys.
Nice. So it might be a visual thing. It might not be the actual goose is the thing. It's just
I think it's
here's
the
birds
visual.
over here, and they come over and look.
Think about how fast they're zooming through the timber and stuff. I mean,
have
my brain couldn't compete
giant,
that.
Have you seen the giant goose chairs too?
Oh yeah,
talking about those. giant decoys. Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's a visual thing that has to do with like they're just buzzing through so fast that they see the contrast and then they zoop.
Right.
But that's just my bro science opinion. But I do think that they do decoy. I mean, the percentage of them that fly by versus decoy is probably pretty small compared to other birds, but they do decoy.
Right. So this segment, this part of the tips and tricks. Point number 4 is getting wood ducks to finish. What is your best chance to get them to finish? Yes, they do finish. Do they finish as well as some of their counterparts as far as like mallards? Probably not. We'll concede to that. But is it like a zero-sum game? Will they never decoy and there's nothing you can do about it? No. There's things you can do to increase your odds. So the first thing I got is motion in your decoys. That actually plays into a lot with what you're saying for a visual thing. I think that having motion in your set, whether you're using like the Motion Ducks decoy spreader or a very less effective jerk rig comparably, or throwing in your spinners. Hunter, you'd probably throw in your flock of flickers or whatever they're called. Is that right? The flock of flickers.
Yeah, I'd use the flock of flickers. I don't know about the spinners, though. I don't know if I've really had enough experience to say the spinners make a difference. I would say
100% that I would believe that spinners actually do really work. For me, it's almost as important, if not just as important, as running spinners for blue-winged teal. I think that spinners and blue-winged teal is like, Oreos and milk. You got to have them both together. And it's the same thing with wood ducks. I've had really good success having them land like on the spinner type of thing. So, and that's over, if this is a scientific study, I probably don't have like 100 hunts of data, but I have enough that is a necessity when it comes to wood duck hunting. I'll definitely be running my spinner. So motion in the set. The next thing, which I don't have as important, I'll be playing around with it more in the coming years. I've actually just started doing this last couple years, but is matching your decoy spread, as in species specific, running the wood ducks in your wood duck spread. I've heard a lot of people say it. I just don't have the sample size, so I will put it as a tip to try to increase your odds on that. The next thing I got. You got anything before I move on to the next subject? It looks like you're about ready to talk.
No, I mean, like those are both pretty good. I would suggest having some wood duck decoys. Obviously there's some that look better than others, but I would definitely have some wood duck decoys.
When you talk about like divers, you're real big on like certain divers are species specific, and I've heard the same thing about divers. I just don't, or not divers, wood ducks. I just don't have the enough data yet to be like, yes, do this and you'll have better hunts.
Yeah, I can't say I do either, because like they seem to be, how do I want to phrase this? The days that they seem to come into a spread seem like you can't do anything wrong. And then the days that they don't come into the spread, you couldn't put corn out there and have them come in. Like it just like seems like there's days that they just come right in and you're in the spot and you could put a freaking orange disc in the middle of the decoys and they're still going to fly in and land in the center of it. And then other days,
know so much about corn and ducks, though, is what I want to know.
I mean, they fly into corn, right?
Cornfields, I guess.
I mean, what do they say?
Disclaimer: Hunter doesn't hunt with corn. Okay.
Yeah, I don't hunt
as far as I know.
Baited stuff. No. On public ground, that would be suicide. Duck hunting suicide, right there.
There was public ground. There's actually a place in Tennessee. I heard about the story. I don't want to out. Should I say the actual exact place?
Nah, you should probably. Yeah,
I probably should. Right? It'd be funny. No, probably not. Anyways, they in this certain part of the country, they all had the assigned blinds where you draw at the beginning of the year. That is your blind for the year. And it was in between, I believe it was either 2 or 3 blinds, and they would put plywood out and dump corn on top of the plywood. And the DNR obviously found it, public land. They're like, why are there all these ducks swarming right between these blinds? And they go out there and find like plywood with corn dumped on top of it. Anyways, none of them would admit to it. This kind of is really would suck if you're the people in the other blind, because they didn't let anybody hunt there. So the guys that won their draw on their blinds that didn't bait also didn't get to hunt.
What's the
I couldn't figure out who did it.
What's the chances someone else that didn't get a blind draw did that to screw everybody else out of it? Because that would happen around here. I'm just not going to name names, but that would definitely happen around here.
Oh, yeah. Those blinds and all that stuff, like, it's crazy. I'm glad we don't have to deal with it. And then, like, the blind burnings, and we're getting way off topic, though. So, but yeah, corn. Moving on. So, what else I got for getting them to finish? So this is kind of, I don't know if it's like, this is what not to do, I guess. This thing does not increase your odds. And I would say spread size. It goes back to like mallards. We're trying, a lot of times if we're we can traffic mallards more than you can traffic a wood duck. So you might pull a big spread or put out a big spread in attempts to pull birds off. That's not really the name of the game when it comes to wood ducks. It's more about your scouting. It's more about knowing your habitat, more about knowing your location, and doing the work ahead of time for all that. And so like a big spread really doesn't help you decoy. So there's no sense in running just a ton of decoys or clogging up the landing space. You just want enough to give it a good visual. And a lot of times, like we've been talking about, you're hunting these smaller cuts in smaller areas. So if you're hunting 2 to 3 dozen, honestly is a big enough, if not too big of a spread. So usually for me, I'm running about around that 2 dozen at most for your wood ducks. So
yeah, this is something I struggle with because usually it's early in the year and I'm super excited to do all of the effort. So I'm like, we're going to take 5 dozen goose silhouettes and we're going to take 14. We don't actually take 14 dozen mallards, but like it feels like we go out and we just have like a pile of decoys because it's early.
I remember
in the
on opener last year and you wanted to put the silhouettes. Did we actually put them up? I can't remember, but I don't think there was anywhere to.
We put a couple.
You put them up in the grass, right?
Yep. I mean,
I do not think that helped us one bit.
I don't think so either. I just like the openers. I just get so jacked up. I'm like, we got to bring it, and then we're gonna have 14 hours to set it up before season because, of course, we're gonna sleep in the spot and all that stuff. But all that being said, yeah, I agree with you. I actually think 2 dozen is way on the excessive side. I mean, like if you kept it less than a dozen, I think what's more important is having motion than having actual decoys.
Sure.
Like bar none, not even close.
If I have 2 dozen wood ducks, I don't feel bad about putting them out, I guess. and I still think that's considered a small spread. In my area, it's about standard, is about 2 dozen, but you go out like to like the Central Flyway and like you're hunting like the edge of a reservoir or something, it's nothing to be like putting out like 7 dozen floaters or something or more, so, and that's because there's that many ducks and you're battling these big rafts of whatever, so yeah,
I agree.
So okay, moving on. The next one we got on here, tip number 5 is shot size. We're going to talk all about shooting, what you're going to run for your ammo for wood ducks. Honestly, I still prefer, I would say, the 20 gauge when it comes to a wood duck. And then if I'm going shot size if you run a bismuth, number 6s, steel, number 5s. My thought on it is people downsize for teal. And nobody blinks an eye, but you say it for wood ducks. They're like, why are you doing that? You don't need to. It's like, well, you're going to have a more denser pattern. It's going to be more lethal. Again, we talk about the shooter's chance. Anytime, if you can go with that smaller size, denser pattern, wider spread, they're going to be up in your face real close. You're going to be doing yourself a favor. So that is my recommendations for dropping down in shot size and shoot 20 gauge. Also, I will mention that your time to reacquiring a target, if we actually clocked it, it would probably sound insignificant, but the actual feeling during the hunt I believe it actually is. I mean, with how fast those birds are whipping in and out, I actually do believe that it is an advantage to shoot a 20 gauge, which has well enough power to take out a wood duck. So stop. Don't give me those crazy eyes. I'm not saying a 28 gauge. I'm saying a good old American power 20 gauge.
I disagree with about everything you just said.
Sure. Let's hear it.
All right. So I would say the same thing for bismuth. Number 6s, if you're going to shoot bismuth, I think you're going to do just fine with number 4s. If you're buying, if you're hunting enough where you're buying a case of ammo and you're going to buy a case of 4s, there's no reason to go buy 5s to hunt wood ducks for 2
I'll
weeks.
agree with you on that. But as far as like, if you go like, I'm trying to think of the specific company. Which company has the? Oh, it's Heavy Shot. Heavy Shot. Fast Teal, I think is what it is. Maybe it's Kent Fast Teal.
Kent Fast Teal.
Is it Fast Teal?
Yeah, Kent Fast Teal because their normal shells are Fast Steel.
I couldn't remember. I bought a case of that back in the day when for teal season, and they actually sell it in 3-inch number 5s. But it is overkill to from a 4 to a 5. If you're just going to buy a case of that, right? But if you're like, okay, I'm going to buy a few boxes for teal season, I'll still stick with my 5s.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a little bit excessive, in my opinion. I mean, if you got the time,
do you drop down in shot size for teal?
Yeah, but I usually don't buy like a case of that ammo.
Okay.
I mean, usually my teal hunts, I'm going on 5 teal hunts a year, so I buy 4 boxes of ammo just to make sure I have plenty because I suck at shooting. But yeah.
See, so I guess I buy a case. And it does come down to if you're on a budget and you're like, I can only buy 1 case for ducks and 1 case for geese, or just 1 case in general, you might be shooting like number 3s at wood ducks and teal. But like we hunt avidly, we hunt, 60 times a year. If we don't use it this year, we're going to use it next year. So it's like, if you have a case, and you're going to buy it for teal, you're going to have leftover for wood ducks as well.
Yeah. And I would agree with that. Like if you have leftover teal shells, you're probably just fine to shoot them at wood ducks. But I think the majority of the people are going to be doing it the other way around, where they're going to have leftover big duck shells and they're going to be shooting them at teal or at wood ducks. The second thing is that I believe it's a bunch of hogwash that you can shoot faster. You acquire your target faster with a 20 gauge over a 12 gauge. I think that is total bro science. It might not feel faster, but it's probably the difference of time. Do I believe it's faster? Yes. But the difference of milliseconds is so insignificant. Like, I bet if you actually calculate it out, the difference between you acquiring a target and then you acquiring the target with a 12 gauge versus a 20, I bet the duck has done like 3 feet difference, like 1 yard. If
Dude,
1 yard
all
is
it takes, like, okay, here's my counter to that. Like, we've all hunted on those windy days where you get 1 shot and then they turn and you're shooting them up a butt. After that, like, you're just not killing anything. So you got 1 shot. Right. So you're telling me that matters. But like on a day that's like semi-windy and you go for your 2nd or 3rd shot. And not only that, but it adds up for every shot too. So
yeah, well, your 3rd shot's usually a poke anyways.
It's usually. But with a 20 gauge, it's
still a poke because your 20 gauge range is closer.
It's less. It's not. You don't have less range with a 20 gauge. The
yes, you do.
They're all going the same speed.
Yeah, but you have less range because you have less shot density. As your pattern goes further out, it opens up. Therefore, if you have less pellets out of a 20 gauge, out of a 12 gauge, your shot density goes down for every yard it goes out, more so than a 20 or 12 gauge. So therefore, it's less lethal.
But isn't your pattern bigger?
No.
With a 12 versus a 20?
No. Like if you have a full choke 12 and a full choke 20, they should have the same diameter pattern at 20 yards.
They don't have the same bore diameter, so how are they going to have the same?
They just have more shot density. Like
you're saying that if you shoot a full choke on a 20 and a full choke on a 12, that the 20 is going to be like we measure the whole circumference of the pattern. Won't be bigger.
They'll be nominally the same. They'll be within the margin of error for shots. Yeah,
but it will be bigger.
No, if anything, I mean, like the 20 might be bigger. I'm saying that like there's an error when you're talking about a shotgun, right? You have a margin of error of each shell is going to be just a little bit different.
How is the 20 going to be bigger?
It's just going to have more holes in it.
Oh, no. I'm saying, okay, the circumference, not,
yeah.
I'm not saying.
Yeah, if you measure outside to outside BB, they're the same size.
You just said that the 20 might be bigger, though.
It might be, but I'm saying like that's the variance. Like thing is going to have some variance. So I'm saying
Okay,
like within
so-
that variance, they're the same.
Okay. We're going to need an expert on here. But
Oh, you mean a guy that's patterned literally hundreds of shotguns?
I don't believe like, that's what I'm trying to say.
So you gotta
Well,
get-
because a 20 gauge has a smaller diameter.
Okay, I have a question for you. How big is your pattern at 20 yards out of your any gun that you shoot with your choke? You probably shoot a modified choke most of the time.
Mostly, yeah.
Okay, at
Yeah.
20 yards, how many?
So I don't
inch-
know. I'd have to go measure it, right? So, but I'm saying that I would
I mean,
assume
what do you think?
that
At
a
20
12
inches?
because the diameter of a 12 gauge, okay, just the same way as when you think about your choke restriction, a full versus a modified, right? It's a slight difference, but obviously the circumference of your pattern, if you draw a circle around every BB, right? On the full, it's smaller than the modified.
Yeah. The full will be a tighter choke, and then you're modified.
Right,
Yes.
right. But okay, but so now 20 gauge, it's a smaller diameter barrel than a 12 gauge. Like, what am I missing here? Because
So what you're missing is that how chokes work is they're measured
the full
off of
on a 12 and the full on a 20 is the exact same diameter.
no, they're measured off of the restriction from bore diameter. So 12 gauge is like, I don't remember exactly, but it's like just under 3/4 of an inch, 0.75, we'll just call it, right? So a certain choke is so many thousandths restriction off of that, right? And so on a 20 gauge, which is closer to a 1/2 inch, the 20 gauge choke is the same amount of restriction off of the bore diameter. So when you think
Okay.
about your shot shell or your
Sure.
shot out at 20 or 40 yards or whatever, it's 20 some inches across, right? So you think your 1/2 inch diameter of choke or your 1/2 inch diameter of barrel is going to make a huge difference on your size of your
I'm
shot?
saying it probably makes some difference, is
Zero.
what I would assume.
Zero.
So how does a full choke? That's what doesn't add up to me. But okay, we're probably getting
No,
too far in the weeds.
All this to say, you should probably shoot a more open choke at wood ducks.
Sure. It still doesn't add up to. I'll be honest. It doesn't make sense that it wouldn't be a tighter pattern.
We'll pattern some guns and I'll show you.
We'll do it for sure. All right. I don't even remember what we're talking about, but all I know is that you're probably wrong. But so we'll go to 0.6. 0.6. And this one's a little bit happier than our little argument there. Wood ducks are gone. They're here and gone super quick. So target your wood ducks early. I talk about it a lot of times that I really enjoy the beginning of season. You know, we'll shoot all our local mallards and then they'll go fly south and we'll wait for the weather and more to push. In the meantime, like I said, wood ducks are a staple of the Mississippi Flyway. They're a staple of the Atlantic Flyway. And they're a staple of Southern hunting, God bless them, because they down in like Georgia, that's all they shoot. And they're like, oh, we'll take anything. You guys can have our wood ducks. I'm like, man, I miss them after 3 weeks. So target them early with your 20 gauge for the first 3 weeks of season, because they'll be here and gone before you know it.
Agreed. Yeah, that's agreed.
Good deal. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This podcast on wood duck hunts. Feel free to message either me or Hunter about this topic that we had a scuffle on as well, or anything else. You can find me over on Instagram. It's probably your best place to reach me. Duckin' Chronicles. Hunter still hasn't changed his name to something more easy to find, or maybe he has. I don't know, but maybe he will someday. Hunter Roosevelt.
Rowenfelt. No S.
Rowenfelt. ROEFTD.
Don't search that. You'll never find me.
Will it come up if they search King of the Cans?
I'll have to see. I don't actually know.
Yeah.
I know that's in my like description stuff.
King of the Cans
so.
back. Okay, cool. But I guess we'll wrap it up here. That's all we got for today, guys. I'm Jordan, Duckin' Chronicles, Hunter, the King of the Cans, and we'll see you guys on the next one. All right, so me and Hunter have been continuing our deliberation after the fact. What I've came to the conclusion is that he's very poor at explaining.
I think that's fair.
It took him an hour. How long did it take? It took a long time, maybe 30, 40 minutes, to be honest. But the outcome is, and I still have a tough time saying it, but he might be right. So
I am terrible at explaining it, but the way it comes down to is your choke is based off of how many percentage of your pellets go inside of a 30-inch circle at 40 yards.
Right. You said, okay. So eventually you looked it up and you found that. Okay. So it's a desired outcome. So if your full choke is 70% at 30, it was 40 yards. It was 70% at 40 yards. Then they create the choke tube after the fact to achieve that desired outcome. So in my brain, I'm like, well, it's a smaller diameter, and then you make that diameter smaller. Well, they're not actually, they're going for they have a desired outcome of a certain number of BBs, and that's how the industry standard for creating choke tubes, and each one has a different percentage. And so it doesn't matter what size your bore starts at, because nobody shoots. I guess the only thing it might make a difference on would be like cylinder, where it's actually the actual cylinder. You might actually have a bigger one. Maybe am I right on that at least? No?
Ooh, I don't know, because even cylinder is classified as being 40% of your pattern within a 30-inch circle at 40 yards, regardless of what you're shooting. So even that would be the same, because you had to have no restriction.
Okay. Well, then it's non-intuitive and it doesn't make sense, because if there's no restriction added to that, and you think that a bore diameter of 735 compared to a bore diameter of 619 thousandths or whatever would end up being a different percentage when you make your circle and your number pattern and all that. So either they're just lying and these numbers are from the government, or we learned something. I don't know, but we're going to tack this on at the end of the podcast for a little bit of explanation. I really do have a tough time believing it, but maybe it's right. Maybe I think
maybe the guy that went to gunsmithing
the only
school.
Explanation, which I had to actually form your own explanation.
Yeah. So
I'm a desired outcome of a percentage in a circle. And if they have that and they try to achieve that, then yeah, that would be why your chokes match up, and would have similar sizes, even though they're coming out of different diameter, with percentage restrictions and all that. We're getting in the weeds again, but what do you got? What do you got to say?
Just that I did a very terrible job at persuading my part of this argument, to be honest. Like, I knew what I was trying to say, but for some reason I was incapable of explaining it better than that's just how math works, because I couldn't pursue.
You didn't remember. You learned it at some point and you knew that this is what it was supposed
how
to be.
How it was.
You're like, I don't remember why, but it is this. Just trust me. I'm like, I have a hard time trusting you when it's non-intuitive.
Yeah, which, like, I was trying to explain that, like, very little things on a shotgun are actually intuitive. Like, the bore sizes itself is not intuitive. How they measure it is not intuitive. Chokes are not intuitive. They make no sense whatsoever. They're just totally arbitrary. And a full choke is just an arbitrary number. Like,
right. Well, that's what, and part of it when I was like, that would be a crazy coincidence, if they just had all these things that they just kind of made up. And you're like, well, it's not. They actually planned it. I was like, well, why don't you say that? Like, why don't you say that they have a desired outcome? And that's why the circles are the same. That's why the circumference of the patterns are the same, because they actually have a desired outcome to make that happen.
Okay. So to bring this thing whole circle, because we were talking about the difference between 12 and 20. So if your pattern out of a 12 gauge is still so many percent in the circle, and your pattern out of the 20 gauge is the same amount of percentage points out of the circle, the 20 gauge is going to be less lethal as ranges go out, because your shot density your pattern density is going to go down.
Right. Yeah.
You agree with that?
Less pattern density, the same way that steel is less lethal than bismuth, because bismuth obviously has more density in the shot, which is a different density than we're talking about, but not to be confusing. So when you have more density in your pattern, as far as number of BBs that connect with your target, you got more kinetic energy hitting that bird and knocking it down.
Yes.
So that's where your pattern density helps. But adding density to your shot also helps too, because you add more weight to kind of explain it more in layman terms, to what's hitting the bird as well, as the number of BBs.
It actually comes down to energy. You have more energy you're hitting the bird with a heavier pellet itself. Now, with this all being said, a 20 gauge with a number 4 BB traveling at 1,300 feet per second is the same amount of energy as a 12 gauge with a number 4 BB traveling at 1,300 feet per second. That doesn't really matter. What matters is that the shot density is different. Like the pattern density is different.
Sure. So, I mean, it all comes down to numbers game. If it's like 15% less BBs and you still only need like one to hit it in the head, but 15% of the time, right? If you have that many less BBs, you wouldn't have that BB hitting the bird in the head unless it's like more than one in the density of your pattern, right? Then, now the math gets a little bit harder. But it all comes down to a percentage. And if you're shooting a 20 versus 12 over the season, are you going to maybe miss like 3 or 4 birds out of 100? Probably. It would probably be somewhere in there is what your number would be. But it is a difference.
Yes. And your follow-up shots are not any faster on a 20 gauge. End of recording.
That's a totally different argument. Which
I really want to see the shot cam footage. I really do want to see the shot cam footage.
It's shot cam footage. I can almost always tell you the difference when I watch it. Whereas like a 12 gauge, like the bird goes out of frame, and on a 20 gauge, it usually stays in frame.
Yeah. But see, I'm not saying the argument of the recoil. I'm saying the argument of your follow-up shot with a 12 gauge versus a 20 gauge. If you put them next to each other and you had the same, like flushing bird, we'll just call it, right? Like a pheasant would be the easiest example because they tend to be like a flushing bird that's typically going away, right? But if you had your shot cam footage and you synced up to where your first shot was at the same time, and then you let them play to where the second shot, I bet the second shot is faster with the 20 gauge, but it's not faster enough to matter. It's not faster enough to be worth the pattern density.
So you're saying that your argument, we don't want to get too far in this because we've already did the podcast once, but your argument was that a 12 gauge we're saying like 15% if it's only one BB. Now, if it's multiple, it's going to like 5 or 6%, right? So that's the numbers we're working with that your argument was on the last subject. So now we go to a 12 to 20 and you're saying it is faster. Now, all it has to be to meet your bar that you just set on the last argument is 5% better. And you're saying you don't think it is, because I think it's at least 5%, if not more.
No, what I'm saying is that it's better, but I don't think it's worth the cost of pattern density. Like I'm saying, like even if it is 5% faster follow-up shots with a 20 gauge over a 12 gauge, it still doesn't outweigh the pattern density advantage of sticking with a 12 gauge. Because if you probably do the math on your 5 milliseconds of difference, that's a difference of like 6 inches on a bird, like flying away from you, or whatever the math works out.
Those are bro science numbers.
They're totally made up.
Right. All I know is that it feels better, and I don't have numbers to back it up.
It feels better.
I mean, neither do you, right? Neither one of us does.
No. Well, what I'm saying is that I would be very interested because we could very easily figure this out, right? If you had the numbers of your follow-up shots and you took an average of your follow-up shot from a 12 to a 20 over an entire season, and your average of the follow-up shots out of all your 12 gauge shots.
Duck tips.
And you took all of those averages, and then you figured out that, hey, there's a 10%, you shoot your second shot 10% faster, and it's this many milliseconds faster. And then the average velocity of a duck is so many mile per hour, and you figure out how far it had traveled in that millisecond. And I'm saying it's probably not worth it. Because that's essentially what you're looking for in a follow-up shot, is still having the bird within range for your follow-up shot.
So your argument would be like the exact same with if I made the same argument about 12 versus 20 with your your difference in BBs, 15%. With more BBs, it's less than that. Hitting the bird, I'm saying, it's a minor difference, but we're just both saying like the 12 is better, and like by the percentage it is, and 20 is still better by the percentage as far as like getting on the bird quicker and having a more lethal second shot. Now, what the difference is and what the measures, all we have is our bro science guess. So like we can argue back and forth, but we just won't know. All I can tell you is it feels better. I know you haven't shot 20 gauge much when it comes to duck hunting. But you just have to look at it in that way. It is slightly better. I wasn't saying that it's like earth shattering, like this new thing. It's a 20 gauge and it kicks less. I'm saying, no, you get on the birds quicker, and sometimes that helps. And you can make the same argument. You have a 12 gauge, and sometimes having those extra 15% BBs on your first shot is going to be more. It's going to be more lethal. There's going to be birds that drop that would otherwise not fall, whether it's 7% through the season or whatever it is. Which 7 is actually a big percent, like 4%, somewhere in there. It starts to be like meaningful. So I think you can say the same from the 12 to the 20. What percentage it is only a guess. So we can argue back and forth about how we feel about it, but we just won't know. So for me, I guess I don't want to dive too much deeper into it. for the audience sake, maybe they actually love this debate. I don't know. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're not going to know. And you and me actually do love to do this, but at some point we'll probably cut it off on air. Round it up anyway.
Yep. Yeah, I'd agree. So that's why everybody should shoot a 16 gauge, and we need to bring them back.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with them. I've actually never shot a 16 gauge, so I can't say.
They're the best of both of them. But anyways.
All right, there's your bonus clip here. I don't know if we'll add in the part where we said we ended it, or if we're going to end it now. Probably just end it now. You won't even know the difference. But man, this has been a different podcast from the intro all the way through. So hope you guys enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun, even if we're, chomping back at each other, jawing a little bit, having some fun. We're both smiling, laughing, and ready to kill some wood ducks. So hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Hope these tips and our debating, was at least entertaining. That's all we got for today, guys. I'm Jordan, Ducking Chronicles, Hunter, King of the Cans. And make sure to check us out over there, Instagram. If you have any questions, feel free to pipe in, to tune in, to give us your feedback and thoughts on all the argument and the wood duck stuff as well. So we'll see you guys on the next one.